A young man named Rabbi Goldbaum survived the Holocaust. His entire family had been wiped out by the Holocaust. Running away from his heritage of Yiddishkeit, he came to the United States, where he ended up living in Alabama. He no longer was known as Avraham Goldbaum. His name is now Aaron Green. He wanted nothing to do with Judaism anymore. Luckily, with the grace of Hashem, he married a Jewish woman, and they had children. He had a son named Jeffrey. And so he lived his life like a non-Jew until the day that Jeffrey was becoming bar mitzvah. He knew that his son was going to be 13 years old, but he had no desire or intention to celebrate the bar mitzvah in any way. He did decide on one thing, that was, he decided to take Jeffrey to the local mall and told Jeffrey, in symbolic of his bar mitzvah, he can choose anything that he wants and he'll buy it for him as a present. So they went down to the local mall in Alabama, their Best Buy. Aaron Green told his son, you could choose anything you want from the store. Jeffrey looked around, and suddenly across the street, he saw a sign that says antiques for sale. He spied something in the window. He saw something and he said, Dad, I don't want anything from the electronics store. I want to go across the street to the antique store. The father couldn't understand. He said, Jeffrey, I'm willing to buy you whatever you want. What could you possibly want in the antique store? So they went across the street, went into the antique store. Jeffrey was holding his father's hand, and Jeffrey said to his father, you see that thing in the window? I want to buy that. What was that thing? It was an old wooden menorah, the kind of menorah that we light for Hanukkah. So Aaron looked at the store owner and he said, how much is that menorah in the window? And the store owner said, it's not for sale. So Aaron was mystified. What do you mean? Everything in the store is for sale. No, sir, it's not for sale. That's a priceless item that I own. And you have to know its history. It was made by someone in Auschwitz in the concentration camps. It took him over a year just to collect the wood. But he never had the privilege of lighting the menorah. He died. And so I want to be able to hold on to this because it's a collector's item. But Jeffrey kept pulling at his father. Dad, I want that menorah. Buy me that menorah. So a bidding war began. He said, I'll give you $1,000 for it. And the man said, no. Aaron then said, I'll give you $1,500 for it. And he kept upping the ante until they settled on an incredible amount of money. $3,000 for an old wooden menorah. But Jeffrey walked out with the menorah. And he was so excited. He took it home, up to his room. And he played with it. And he enjoyed it. And Aaron was happy to have given his son this present, even though they were far removed from Yiddishkeit and Judaism. One day, Aaron and his wife were downstairs in their living room when they heard a crash in the second floor. Aaron ran upstairs, and lo and behold, the menorah that he had bought for Jeffrey had crashed. Jeffrey was holding it, he let go of it, and it smashed to pieces. Aaron started screaming at his son. He said, what did you do? You know how much money I spent for this menorah? An outrageous sum of money. Come, let's get some glue and glue it together. And so they collected all the wooden pieces. And when Aaron collected all the wooden pieces, some of the hollow pieces of wood, he started to put them together, and he noticed a piece of paper that was inside, hidden in one of the crevices of the piece of wood. He pulled out the letter. He started to read the letter. He turned white as a ghost, and he fainted. And then his family came to try to help him. They poured water on his face until he was able to come back, and he said, what happened? He says, you won't believe it. I saw a piece of paper hidden inside the menorah. I started to read it. It was written in Yiddish, and I remember Yiddish from when I was a child. It said the following: I went ahead, the person who made this menorah, I made this menorah. It took me over a year to collect the wood for it by looking for scraps of wood in the fields of Auschwitz. And then I finally put the menorah together. I don't think I'll ever have the opportunity or the zechut to light this menorah, but whoever gets this menorah, please light this menorah in memory of the people who died in Auschwitz and in memory of those who served Hashem l'shem shamayim. And then they said, so what happened? They said to Mr. Green, and he said to them, you won't believe it. It was signed by Shia Goldbaum. That's my father. My father built this menorah. My father never got to see me ever again. My father died because he served God. And then he had a reawakening. The whole family was shocked. This menorah had traveled all the way from Auschwitz in Poland to Alabama to wake up the son and the grandson. And slowly but surely, they decided to wake up to their Jewish roots, contacting a local Kiruv organization. And Avraham Goldbaum came back to Yiddishkeit. You know, the holiday of Chanukah is about Chanukah, which to dedicate, to rededicate our lives. Chanukah comes in a time of the year when it's the most darkest, when the days are the shortest. But we have to look for those sparks of light. They found those sparks of light in that story. They were able to see that Hashem loves them. Hashem's direct siyata d'shmaya and his supervision, Hashgacha pratit over the world, brought Jeffrey to be able to want that menorah so that he could bring his father back to Yiddishkeit. And this family is now, Baruch Hashem, religious today. Have a wonderful holiday.